So Lil Nas X just birthed Montero, and this rollout has been absolutely weird. It's been absolutely bonkers with the crazy Montero "Call Me by Your Name" music video. We also had the shoes, the rip-off Nikes with the blood, and of course we had Lil Nas X literally pregnant. And on the Montero show, we have conceived, and Montero has now been shown to the world. The baby has been born. And what I could definitely say is that I'm actually quite impressed with this album. And I think this shows a great amount of diversity, it shows a great amount of personal content, and it gives a better idea of what Lil Nas wants to be as a person and as an artist. And I think for me, this album is kind of cut into two parts, where I think 1 to 9, even though these themes are kind of interlaced through the project, I think the first half is kind of more of Lil Nas X trying to set himself as independent, as confident, and has the potential to reach these crazy accolades all by himself. Because with the release of Old Town Road, with Panini, the 7 EP in general, I feel as that success is incredibly huge, I think there's a lot of incoming voices, incoming opinions from a bunch of other people wanting this wave to continue to grow and grow and grow and not crash. And there's probably tons of voices coming in saying this is how you should do this, this is the next music video, this is how you should do the music video. All this kind of stuff is flowing into Lil Nas X, trying to push him to be this incredible superstar. But I think on this first half of the album that Lil Nas X is saying that I don't need people telling me what to do. I know exactly what to do. Even though it's going to rub people the wrong way, this is how I want to do it. And regardless if you're with me or not, I'm going to get fans regardless. I'm going to get streams regardless. I'm going to be remembered regardless of what I do. I know exactly what I'm doing. Leave me alone, basically. And I'm going to prove to you that I can do this. And I think on this album, we get a good idea of that, especially when you think of Industry Baby, when you think That's What I Want, all this kind of stuff. It really shows that Lil Nas X really wants to be taken seriously, and I think it does a good job of doing that. The second half of this album I find more interesting, which is track 10 to 15, starting at Tales of Dominica. And we get a lot more personal Lil Nas X talking about loneliness, talking about love lost, talking about mental health, being depressed, all this kind of stuff. And I like kind of the tonal shift that this album takes, even though there's breezy soft rock, these kind of guitars and all this stuff mixed in on the second half. I think that really creates this nice sound. It creates kind of a vulnerability. It creates a personality. And Lil Nas X is a competent singer. I'm going to say that. He's incredibly competent. And while these lyrics may be a little bit simple, they won't be crazy, mind-blowing to anybody. I think the way he delivers these lyrics are incredibly personal and they're incredibly potent. And my favorite track is honestly Sun Go Down, which didn't really get a lot of critical praise when it came out, but it's such a heartwarming song. It's a breezy song. It's nice on the ears. And it's almost like a thank you to the fans that have stuck with him through this time, and he wants to prove people wrong. So that's a really cool part. I like Void as well, talking more about this loneliness and this love lost. It's nice to get such a mega star willing to be open about stuff like this, and I can imagine how isolating it can be, even though you're an amazing megastar and everyone knows who you are. It can get pretty isolating, especially as an artist. We see many artists talk about isolation and depression and loneliness, especially when you consider that Lil Nas X is homosexual and is in the LGBTQ community. I cannot speak from this perspective, so I'm not going to project anything or understand, but I would say I can kind of understand the perspective of being alienated, being isolated, even though we are progressing as a society to more of acceptance, more loving towards all, there is still this feeling of isolation and loneliness and unacceptance. So that's something I think Lil Nas X carries with him quite a bit. And I think on the second half of the album, it does reinforce that, which is really cool to hear, and I appreciate the openness, the vulnerability. There are some moments that I don't think are as potent. It's not to say that they are bad. I just think that there are some moments that are just not as potent as what we get on some later tracks. I think Dead right now, especially after coming off of Montero, Call Me By Your Name, I think that it just doesn't really pack a punch. I think it's more muted. It doesn't really carry a crazy kind of concept or lyrical themes. Even though it's still talking about Lil Nas X looking for his independence, I just don't think that it's really pushing or innovating or creating some kind of new sound doing this. I think it's kind of a typical sound, even though the Lil Nas X sounds is, I think it's more regal now. I think there's a lot more of a marching band aesthetic. I think there's more breezy soft rock. This one, I just think it doesn't really stand out. Another one for me is $sign Slime, which is Megan Thee Stallion. I don't really think that stands out either. I think it's just trying to be more of that rap sound. And I may be a person seeing Lil Nas X. I don't know if I see Lil Nas X as a rapper. Even though on Industry Baby, he does have more of a rap cadence. And there's some songs in here as well, like Scoop, which I absolutely love. It's probably one of my favorite banger tracks on the album. I don't know if I like Lil Nas X as a rapper. I think he's a very competent pop rap, with a hence more on the pop. And I don't know if this $sign Slime song is really doing it for me. I don't know if it really fits with the themes of this album, personally. Those, honestly, though, are my only two gripes, like major gripes. And maybe I saw Elton John, maybe I wanted to Elton John sing, but it's nice to hear the piano. But overall, this album, I thoroughly enjoy it. And I'm coming back to it more and hearing different perspectives, hearing different vocals and different lyrics. I think this is an album you can actually unpack and get a little bit more out of each and every listen. And I love the closer on this with Am I Dreaming, where it's very orchestral, it's very grand sounding. It's a really beautiful end to this album. And Miley Cyrus absolutely kills it on the end. And I think that's really cool, because I'm not the hugest fan, obviously, of Miley Cyrus. I remember Miley Cyrus and Her Dead Pets, and I don't know why I listened to that once, and that is one of the most disgusting albums and album covers I've ever heard. But tangent aside, I think it's a really great closer to this album. And I don't really give scores on albums, as I've discussed before, but I think this is a quality pop album. It's a nice short listen, in contrast to all of the mid-hour and 30-minute albums we've been getting. It's so nice to finally get a nice trim album that we can just focus in on and are able to unpack stuff out of such a small package. So, what are your thoughts on Montero? Like and subscribe if you would like. What are your thoughts on Montero? Thank you for watching. This is Sonic Spill, and have a good night, everybody.